In my last video, I made a complaint about how many of the games being made are just direct clones of a recently popular video game. This could be Hades, Slay the Spire, Balatro, Vampire Survivors, or anything else that happens to catch fire in the public eye. And it honestly makes this series of demo diving difficult because many of the demos I play end up being more or less the same game as its inspiration, but with just a different coat of paint. I try to cover these games that I either find fascinating, enjoyable, or ones that I think are a bit flawed in order to be able to voice constructive criticism to hopefully help the design of gaming as a whole. Every once in a while though, I get a breath of fresh air, and regardless of release date, I feel like it's something I need to cover in order for more people to hopefully see it and give it a shot. But what is this game? Stay tuned to find out. Developed and published by Tlon Industries, whose name I am 100% not pronouncing correctly, comes the survival crafting, base building, Metroidvania, Kentum. Stranded in the year 10,000, Kent, an average Joe turned clone, must survive, explore, and rebuild civilization with the help of a snarky AI. Craft, farm, and automate in this 2D Craftervania adventure as you uncover Earth's secrets and kickstart humanity one machine at a time. Now, when I saw this game that was mixing genres of a typical base building, crafting, survival, and somehow throwing a Metroidvania element into it all, my curiosity was pretty much piqued. Jumping into the game, you are met with a relatively simplistic yet visually appealing experience. Enemies and resources stand out from the world, and as you explore, you really get that Metroidvania feeling, with each sector having a slightly different aesthetic to it, making it easier to navigate. After crash landing, you have begun your life as a clone, with each subsequent death requiring you to track down your lost items and hopefully learn from your mistakes. That is, unless you're like me and you die to birds and electricity too many times. As you set out into the world, you encounter several points of interest that, once scanned, will allow you to create new enhancements for your base, whether that be new equipment to process resources, patches of soil to grow various seeds, or even just aesthetic items that make your base feel more like a home. Resources you gain can also be used to create new exploration methods, whether that be a hoverboard that runs on compost, a grappling hook that lets you reach new places, and a glider that allows you to shoot up in the air and float long distances. Add on a dash ability that you learn, and you have unlocked the Metroidvania aspect of the game, as these tools will allow you to reach new places that allow you to unlock more mechanics, and then the cycle repeats. A somewhat familiar plot begins to develop relatively early as a monolith changes your robot companion into more of a boss than a friend, and it's a little obvious that working on some corporation's idea of what humanity should be like will likely come back to haunt you, but that really didn't bother me all that much. Now, what did bother me a little bit was the fact that the game felt like it kinda ground to a halt while I had to wait to figure out some specific recipes in order to advance, and then I would get a ton of advancements only to slow back down. And I think that some of this pacing was impacted because some of the resources were on slim chances to drop. So you would have to go out to hunt for them, and it got a little tedious because you wouldn't always find it whenever you explored. Although the reminders of where I fell were always a little bit amusing to come across. The base building mechanics were fairly standard, and while automation was possible, I became a little lost in where to even begin, so if the game made a quick mission to kind of show you how to utilize it, I think it'll make the whole thing more approachable. Combat was a little hit and miss, because I felt like I wasn't getting the fluidity that I would like, but I think that's intended because it gave more of an old school DuckTales approach to combat, even borrowing the bouncing on enemies with a downward attack. With that being said, I will say that being swarmed by giant ostrich-like birds is something you would rather avoid if possible, because being stunned out of an attack can really cause some quick deaths. In the end, Kentum doesn't really nail every little aspect, but the marriage it did make between all the genres it tries to tackle alongside a simple story and pleasing art creates an experience that's worth more than what many recent games seem to offer. One thing I think is worth noting is that there's a good amount of things unlocked within the first few hours of gameplay, and it makes me kind of wonder what sort of new traversal mechanics will be utilized later on to keep progression feeling meaningful instead of giving you all the keys to the kingdom up front. And although the ending of the demo did feel a little empty with no sort of real impact statement through a cliffhanger or even a montage of what to expect, the demo still did its job of making me want to put this on my wishlist for whenever it does release. But with that, that'll be it for this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and as always, be kind to one another.
Please refrain from dying until your obligations are fulfilled.
Shoutouts go to Relativity, Naughty Dog is King, Chaos, and Kamikolo alongside all those subbed to the channel. Let me know what you thought below, and I will see you soon.